how do we sow seeds now that will pay off in 10, 20, even 50 years later? Today we're talking about legacy. Welcome to the 167.
1, 2, 3, let's go!
Welcome back to the 167. I'm Pastor Lucas Motley, the discipleship pastor at New Life Community Church, and with me is the senior pastor, Pastor Rick George.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for inviting me in and for being here on the 167.
Yeah.
67.
6, I know. My kids, they actually said they wanted to start a PK podcast and call it the 167. And so it'd be the same thing, but it'd be
There you go.
167. Yeah, and obviously everyone here is joining us remote like they did for church this weekend.
Yeah.
Unless you're in the studio audience and we can't see you.
We need a laugh track. Yeah, some claps and so it was a an interesting weekend. It wasn't as bad as they had forecast it as far as the snowfall totals.
Right.
Yet it was still a little chilly. You needed a sweater if you were going to go outside.
Like, or 6.
Don't forget your sweater. It might get chilly this afternoon.
I've been wearing long underwear for like 2 weeks now.
Oh, long underwear is it's a beautiful thing.
It's just,
Is that what the podcast is about?
it feels like a warm hug.
The
over.
value of long johns.
Yeah.
So, do you have the kind that you like, the one piecer, like the old
No, I actually
1800s?
I used to have one of those, and it was bright red
Yeah, I had that same thing
with the little butt flap.
Yep, and the button up in the front. Oh yeah, we had the. But no, I just wear like the Under Armour or like the layered kind of.
You have to be really careful with that because I go snowboarding, usually about twice a year, and I do not like the cold. Like, I love to snowboard, hate being cold, and so I'm like, the hot hands packets. I'm like putting those in my bibs and stuff like that, and wearing long underwear, and you got to be really careful because like I had a pair of long underwear that was fleece lined, and I thought I was gonna die.
Yeah,
like, I was just like, it was so hot, but.
Yeah, if you dress right, hey, the cold is not that bad.
It's not that bad. Whereas, like in summer, you can only take off so many layers, and then you're just hot. But enough about my underwear.
Anyway, we should probably change topics.
So this week we were talking about being a generational church, being a legacy church. And so you were kind of casting the vision of New Life being around not just for 10 years, but for 50 years, for 100 years, which I always love. Like I said, you see these generational churches that have been around that, the community basically almost plans around them.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking about it. You said that in every generation, they have to invest in the next. So in the church and in culture, so like as we're seeing culture develop alongside the church, where do you think that we're seeing success in kind of stewarding the next generation, and where do you see some areas that maybe we could improve or we need to pay attention to, both in culture and in church?
Yeah, in church, like in New Life, like the specifics of our church, some of the areas that I think we're making good strides is to recognize the potential in younger people. That begins like clear back in our 5th and 6th graders, where we start to identify kids that seem to, have a heart for God, an interest in serving within the church. And so we identify those young people that are 12, 13, 14 years old.
Right.
And then we invest in them by inviting them into some, I'll call them lower levels of leadership. It's just some areas to serve. So on, the soundboard for Children's Church, or inviting them in to serve in the early childhood, to start working alongside smaller children and learning from older adults. We then invite our middle school and high school students into places where they begin to serve in the church, like running cameras, serving on the
Our
light
middle-
board.
Our middle school greeter.
Yeah.
There's this group of middle school boys that for some reason they got involved
Yeah.
with greeting at the front door, and there's just a whole gang of them there on
Yep.
Sunday
So every
morning.
Sunday morning they're out there. Sometimes they got their pajama pants on, and but they're out there holding the door, shaking hands, welcoming people in, and that's awesome. We want to give them a place where they can connect, feel like they are making a difference because they are, and then as they get a little bit older, starting into later in middle school, but primarily into high school, then we're investing in them at a little deeper level. We're inviting them into more visible places where they're seen more. So musicians and singers being on the stage and, leading our congregation in that way.
They lead at youth, but also on Sunday morning under kind of apprenticeship. And
Yeah.
tutelage.
And then Pastor Jake in our youth team, they have a youth leadership team where they start to invest in high school juniors and seniors predominantly, but anyone in middle school, high school, where they can go through leadership development and then they become leaders in the youth group. So then hopefully if they stick around here and go to Johnson County Community College or something close by, then they can continue to serve and to lead and then go from that ministry into our next young adult ministry and be productive there, learn some skills, continue to serve, and then grow up in the church and find places where, we have some examples, like just right here with Megan and with Jake, who came up through our youth ministry, served on a volunteer basis, were given part-time roles to step it up, and then from those part-time roles we're given full-time roles.
Jake Huppy is our youth pastor, and Megan is our connections director.
So I think we've made some good strides. We haven't perfected it. We still have a long ways to go. So that's one area. We've also done a good area or a good job in the area of some of our men in the church, and we've intentionally over the past 4 years, when we're bringing on new deacons, we're looking beyond that 40 to 50-year-old mature man who has some stability and has shown themselves. We've reached in and said, okay, well, here's some young men that have been faithful, but they're just young. They don't have the years, but we're giving them positions based on what they've done through high school and in their young adult life. And now they're 26, 27 years old.
And they're either freshly married or married with very young kids.
Yeah. And so we're trying to invest in that area too. And again, it's intentional that those young men can serve alongside some men that are in their 60s and 70s. They have the stability, they just don't have the energy.
Right.
So there's a little wisdom, just not a lot of get up and go to make it happen. So they can invest.
That way, when the deacons have a project, there's plenty of guys like leaning on the shovel, giving advice, and then there's actually people that are digging the hole.
However, we talked about Snowmageddon. We have one of our
Shout out to our deacons.
Yeah, one of our deacons, he's over 70 years old, and he was going neighborhood to neighborhood, and he was, shoveling people's driveways and clearing them off because, they needed help. We had several deacons that went out and did that all day on Sunday.
We have some people in our congregation that are in their 70s and 80s, and I think they're healthier than I am. Like Carol and Johnny, they're saints.
Yep, just going and serving. And so anyway, that's a way that we're trying to be intentional and hook up some of the younger people with some older people, whether it's on Sunday morning to serve alongside them or in different roles of being a deacon or on the prayer team, worship team, whatever, where we're bringing some young folks in to serve alongside some people with a little more maturity and understanding.
Well, that's one of my favorite things I think to see is when I I go to trails in the morning, or you go get coffee, and it's like you see the older people in our congregation having coffee with the younger people in our congregation, and I'm just going, like, the minute I see that, I'm going, oh, that young person has an advantage that they don't even realize. You know, it's like that person's going to be a leader. They're going to be more stable in their marriage because they have that older mentorship. And to me, I just can't stress that enough, that is something that even just those relational, I tell like married couples, I'm like, that are coming in for premarital counseling, I'm like, you need to find a couple that you can talk to, that you like their marriage. It's not your family. It's not her family. It's like, and then just have dinner once a month, and it's like that will change predominantly a lot of the things that are happening in your marriage.
Yeah. So, again, we haven't perfected it. We have a long ways to go. And yet we're miles ahead of a lot of churches who, like, they just get established and set in their ways. And then those, 45 to 50-year-old couples that raise their kids in the church become the 65 to 75-year-old people who have no interest in young couples. They just want to, like, don't mess with the system that we've created. Don't bring your kids in here because they tear stuff up. And don't, it's just, we have this routine. And so they keep young families and young people away from the church. And eventually what will happen is that church will only attract older people. And, well, you know what happens to older people.
Right.
They keep getting older. And eventually...
Wait, what?
I know. And eventually we all die. And when that happens, the church then dies along with them. Yeah. And that's unfortunate. A church that once had an impact in a community just dies because they didn't invest in somebody coming up behind them that might have a new idea or something that they haven't done before.
And I think that we're a little bit ahead of the curve than culture, because what I see in culture now, there's a lot of countries out there that they're talking about replacement rates, right? Which is kind of a funny concept to me, that it's like, we manage, like our attendance and things like that at church as a gauge for like how successful are we being. Like, are there new people that are coming to know Christ? But like, you hear a lot of stuff right now. They're like, well, this country's replacement rate, and that's their ability to basically have children, so that it's like they can actually keep the country going, the economy going. And you're seeing a lot of people now struggling with that. And I've thought about that because I'm like going, these countries are almost like that church, where it's like they're not bringing in new people. And for them, it's physically, they're
Right.
not bringing new people into the world, but like they're not replacing themselves. And so their capacity, their economy, their ability to accomplish something, it all diminishes because there's not enough people, and the people that are doing the jobs are getting older. And so you actually get to see that played out in culture, but also in church. And there seems to be this, I think it's funny now because people, I think, are waking up to millennials. Like, millennials are in their 30s and 40s, essentially. Like I was in the, what's called the Xennials, which is like the last of Gen X and the first of millennials. And so I'm 44. And so even people who are like millennial, they're 40 years old. And so, there was kind of this disdain of like, these millennials, they don't do anything. They don't, whatever. And now all of a sudden they are in their 40s, and we're going, well, Gen Alpha, like they're, worthless, and they just have this, what do they call it? Brain rot, skibbity toilet riz, like, and it's just like, we don't take them seriously. And so then I think it's very easy to slip into that, though, of like, now we're not trusting them, we're not doing it. But I think that, like, you just kind of laid it out for us. I think that we're trying very hard to intentionally expect more. And so I think that that's a really, a thing that I would encourage, churchgoers and churches to do, is to expect more. Because most of the time we just chalk it up and go, oh, they're teenagers, they're stupid. And it's like, well, yes, but
Right.
like, their brains aren't fully developed, but also if you're not investing in them at that age, and you're just going, oh, someday they'll get older and mature, they'll never, it's not like you stay 40 and they catch up.
Yeah.
It's like we just keep aging together.
Yeah, and so here's the dilemma, is that what you just said is absolutely true. Young people sometimes are stupid. They're just
They're
like,
unwise.
yeah, it's like, what were you thinking? Like, what did you not think through? And they're like, no, I didn't really think about that. And you're like, how could you not have thought through that?
Yeah.
Like, it just seems bizarre. And yet, on the other hand, they have some incredible ideas, things that, like, they're not afraid to try. And it's like, that's brilliant. Like, that is amazing. Like, I would have never thought of that. And so the challenge for older people, and what you have to determine is, what is your risk tolerance when it comes to younger people? Because there's going to be times when you just want to say, no, you're never doing anything again. Like, you are irresponsible.
Yeah.
And if you do that, then you take away all of the brilliant things, those creative things. Like, well, I would have never thought of that. And if you look at like some of the wealthiest people coming up, it's like 19-year-olds,
Yeah.
who figured out something
Invented
on
an app.
YouTube or, some techie thing. And now they're, gazillionaires. And you're like, how did that happen?
Yeah,
How
there's-
did Mr. Beast become Mr. Beast? He was a kid who was like, hey, let's try this. And it worked.
Right. And then you got kids that with 3D printing now, they see a problem, they go, oh, and they design something, print it, and now they're selling it on the internet.
Yeah. And by the way, Mr. Beast isn't like a cross between a beast and a person. It's for all the old people.
You can Google it.
Yeah, Google him. He's a
not the Antichrist
philanthropist.
yet.
Kind of. I don't know. He knows how to make money.
He's an opportunist.
Yeah, he
He's
knows
an
how to make
entrepreneur.
money.
But no, I think that's it's so true with young people. They have great ideas, and it's just a matter of, like you said, your kind of patience of going no, and kind of redirecting them. But it's a real struggle. But if we don't engage in the struggle, then you don't have any replacements rate, and you become that church that's just dying off. And but you got things exactly the way you want it.
Yeah, so going back, so we're planting or investing in the young people, and what that does is it ensures that we have a little bit of longevity, but what it also ensures is you have a certain level of frustration or learning opportunities, right? So like on our worship team, like we'll have young people be on the worship team, and then I'll have to have a conversation with Andrew about dress codes.
Yeah.
It's like, we can't do that. And he's like, yeah, I need to talk to them, about that. Because it's like, well,
But
you
they
never
don't know.
Yeah, you never told me that I couldn't wear, a mini skirt and a
a
halter
tube
top,
top, yeah.
and whatever. Or, for the guys, like, well, I had pants on. Well, yeah, but half of it was gone because you could see were your legs because they were shredded to pieces. And
I remember having some of those conversations as a arts director, and it was like, I had a young woman that came in, and her attire was perfectly fine, but when the lights hit it, it almost became transparent, and I was like, oh no, sweetheart, like,
yeah,
and it was just like this, like, she didn't know, it wasn't her fault, kind of a thing, but I was like, I had to send her home.
Yep. So it comes with its challenges, but again, that risk reward. If we don't take the risk, then we'll never have the reward. And like, I'll be the first to admit, as you get older, it is difficult to trust, because you can see this is not going to go well, and then suddenly they shock you, and you're like, wow, that was amazing.
So this is happening at my house right now of, I'll just rat a couple of my kids out. So, we have this little commuter car that Chris was using to get back to work, and it's probably our oldest car that we own. And then we had to add a third car, and we were like, oh, like, we're just going to buy a third car and the girls can borrow it. It's not their car, kind of a thing. And I was like, well, I don't want to do that. And that was when I bought my truck, right? I was like, well, we've already got this car. And honestly, if somebody dinged this car, I wouldn't be broken up about it. It's a pretty resilient car. I'm going to go buy a car that I want to drive. And bought a truck so we can have like the ball hitch and everything. And one of my daughters, we were like, hey, go back out the car. Like, we're going to go somewhere. She had needed to practice driving. And she backed out the car and hit the side of the garage with the front bumper. And basically, like, it was the thing where it just ripped the front bumper like right off. And it's like, it's plastic. And so it actually, kind of snapped back on. There's a little, there's a little damage to it. But I was just like, she pulled right out, and I was like, And again, my reaction is, you are never going to back, like, not even that you can't drive the car, but I'm going to come back it out of the garage for you. And I was like, nope. And I snapped it all back together and was like, do it again. And I sat there with her and she did it like 10 times in a row until she kind of felt comfortable with it. And it's like, I feel like I fight that even here in ministry. And it doesn't even have to be younger people, but people who are maybe less mature or younger in ministry, to go, as soon as they mess something up, go, okay, we're going to debrief this, but now you're going to do it even more. You know, like, you need reps, not I have to take this from you.
Yeah. So it's the age old dilemma. And it's that old fighting against that old belief, that old system that says, if you want something done right, just do it yourself.
Yeah.
Which is technically true. Because nobody's going to do it like you could do it. Like, that is absolutely true. Yep. Like, it's like, no, I know how I want it done. And if I give it to somebody else, they're not going to do it exactly like I want. That's accurate.
Yep.
There's a chance they could do it better, and there's a chance they could do it worse. So you have to fight that urge to say, no, I'll just do it myself. I don't want you to mess it up. And if you don't fight that urge, eventually, then everybody else disappears. And then again, in the church, you just wind up with a bunch of old people.
How come I can't get any help? And people are like, because you want to do it yourself.
Yeah. So,
but you were also talking about what's important to us to be that legacy church, what we want to permeate in that legacy. And you talked to us about this a lot, which is that the church is a hospital. And you talked about it being a rescue boat, that it's not a country club. It's not something that is something that we come and check our box and get our Holy Spirit tingles, and go home. And so I wanted to ask you a little bit about that. I feel like sometimes when we tell people that, like, I'll talk to people and they're like, oh, they're a mature believer. They've been around 10, 15 years. And I should say, maybe they're a mature believer, but they've definitely been around, longer. And when we say stuff like that, they're like, oh, so like I don't need to come on Sunday. And it's like, oh, no. But like, tell me a little bit about that struggle of, if I'm a mature believer and this is a hospital and, in a rescue boat, as I'm maturing, as I'm coming in, right, how do I make that transition from patient to nurse?
Yeah. So if you just think of a hospital in general, there are so many levels within the hospital, levels of people, involvement, roles of the people that make that hospital function well. So if the hospital has no patients, it's just a big empty building. Like, it's a worthless place, and people don't have anything to do. So you start at that lowest level and you think, well, what does a hospital need? They need sick people, right? That's what a hospital needs. Well, so the sick people show up. Well, now what else do we need? We need a place for them to be seen. They need to come in and be able to be treated. Okay, we have that. Then what else do they need? Well, they need someone to assess them, like to figure out what do you really need? Do you need a surgeon right now, or do you just need somebody to, put a cast on your arm and send you on the way? So we have people that kind of meet them and triage and make those assessments. Okay, and then above that we have some skilled nursing, and then above that there are skilled doctors, and then above that there are surgeons, and then above that you have an executive group that kind of runs the function of the hospital. Then you have above that you have like a big board of directors that oversees the whole thing. And then beyond that, if you look deep into a hospital, you have some people who have invested financially deeply into that hospital, and they're not even sick, but they're like, we believe in the ministry, the mission of this hospital to heal people. And it's why you see commercials for like St. Jude's, or, people are like, yes, I want to give my money to help children that are burn victims or whatever. And we're going to send them. So you have people who aren't really connected physically, but financially they're funding the whole thing. That same thing applies to the church being a hospital. You have people and you're like, well, I'm a maturing believer. I've been around the block. I'm older. I'm not a triage. I'm not going to get in it, but I have some level of wealth. I have some income. Perfect. We need that. And then there are people who are like, I don't have a lot of money, but I can get in and do things. Great. We need you. So there's something for every person within the church.
Well, and I think too, even on that journey, let's say that we'll just use that example as that journey. So it's like I come in and let's say that I'm getting treated, right? I come in and I get treated and I get healed and I go, oh my gosh, this hospital is fantastic. They healed me. I want to be involved. And they go, well, come volunteer. And I go, okay, that's great. I'm going to come and I'm going to visit patients and I'm going to be, what are they, like candy stripers? They used to be called. I don't know. Like, it's like you're volunteering and you're going to volunteer at the local fundraiser for the hospital. You're going to do those kind of things. And then you're like, okay, this is great. I think I want to take it to the next step and I'm going to go back and get my nursing degree, and so you, not necessarily you have to have a degree to serve here, but it's like, like you get educated, what you need to know. So now you're kind of a part of the mission, right? You're in it. And then it's like, even that, like I said, when people are like, well, I've educated whatever, and people will do this where it's like, well, the message today was really, aimed at non-believers. I'm like, yeah, but you're telling me there wasn't one thing that you can glean from that? Even the fact of you learn how to explain this to your non-believing friends, it's like you learned a different way to explain it, or, like you brought a friend, you helped in that ministry. But even if you get your nursing degree, every day that you come to the hospital, you're going to probably either hone your skills, you're going to learn some new, oh, I had a patient that had this thing and I didn't suspect it. And then I watched the doctor treat it. So now I know, like, there's all this stuff that it's like you're gaining wisdom and experience, if not, because I think that people judge it almost by education level. Did I come in and was the message this week something I had never heard before and it just rocked? And it's like, maybe not, but did you gain wisdom today? Did you pray for somebody? Did you hone your skills? Did you have an opportunity to be a part of the mission?
Yeah. So, when you think about, the scope of people within a church, there are some people, it's like, you already have more knowledge of the Bible than you are ever going to apply.
Right.
Like, so it's not the information that you're needing, it's the application. I'm not saying you shouldn't continue to go to a Bible study, but what good is all the information if you're not actually getting out and applying it? And so it's a both. And it's like, the doctor is like, yeah, I've been going to med school for 37 years. Well, do you have a practice? Nope. I'm just still going to school.
Right.
Like, I'm learning a lot. Well, are you ever going to use it? Yeah, probably not. Well, then what's the value in it?
Right.
The value is when you get in and then you start applying it and helping people. And so the same is true, within the local church. And it's taking what we're learning, and as we mature, then we're, again, investing in a younger generation, or investing back into a generation who is sick, whether they're old or young, and they're like, no, you're far from Christ, and I want to invest in that to bring healing, not just to your physical body, but to your soul and your spirit and your eternal destiny, and to make sure that you get what you need here. And that takes people of all ages, of all economic status, it takes everyone coming together to make that happen.
Yeah. And then what happens is our church grows, and that becomes a really uncomfortable situation for us because, like you just mentioned on Sunday, like if we continue to grow, that means that we're going to add more services, perhaps plant a campus, eventually you might have to build again, for a different building. Now, all of that is super uncomfortable. It's challenging because you either have to give money to building a building, and well, I mean, you have to give it to hiring new staff, those kind of things. We have to look at planting a campus, which could mean that, like, oh, well, that means I don't get to see all my friends. Maybe it's not live teaching every week, or we add a third service, which is just like, oh man, I need more volunteers to pull the service off. Why do that? Why wouldn't we just stop? Like, we're running like 1,300 a Sunday. Like, we could just cash it in, right?
Yeah, that's good. I guess staying with the analogy of the hospital, and not like just some country club that we're. So country clubs, they have limits. Like they say, hey, this is how many members we're going to allow. And you have to be in the in crowd and have enough money to be a part of this. And we make it where not everybody can be here. That is not what a hospital does. So with that analogy, if we go back, for Trudy and I, our first child was born at Olathe Med Center, not the Olathe Med Center that just got purchased and bought out by KU.
Right.
The Olathe Med Center that was right there by the exit on 135th and I-35 that they're getting ready to blow up and to, where the double nickel used to, and they're tearing all that out. There was the Olathe Med Center. It was small. That was in 1986. Our first child was born there. It was maxed out. Like that hospital had reached capacity. They did not say, well, the community's growing around us, so sorry
Some
if you're
other
sick.
hospitals gotta
You're going to
handle
have to drive clear to 75th Street to go to Shawnee Mission Hospital or downtown because we can't take care of you. That's not what they said. They said, we have a need, and we're going to meet that need. And so they purchased property, and they built Olathe Med that we know now at 151st, and they built that. And then that wasn't enough. So they expanded, and they put the whole baby wing on, that birthing center, and they expanded.
Which is very nice, by the way.
It is very nice. And so then they expanded that. And then KU Med says, hey, we want to invest here. We want to buy you out. We're going to become one so we can expand even more. And if you look at that place at 151st,
So they became a campus.
yeah, it's a huge campus, and it's got doctors' buildings and surgical. It's just massive facility, a cancer place, a rehab, and all continuing to expand. What once used to be whatever it was, a 60-bed hospital, becomes this massive place because the needs of the people continued to grow, and they just met those needs. That's what we're asked to do, meet the needs of the people. And if we're doing a good job of meeting the needs of the people and investing in a next generation, it will continue to grow. So what do? Build another building, start another campus, have another service, all of that, I don't know. But we got to do something or we will die.
Well, that's the thing that we always try to explain, especially in life groups. That's the big culture of life groups. Is people come into their life group, they're like, I love my life group. These are the people these are my people. But I'm going, yes, until someone planted that life group, you did not have that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And so usually we multiply our life groups. We take the life group and kind of, cut it in half and like the baby with Solomon. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Which one of you loves this life group more? No. And they kind of divide and they'll multiply and going, okay, now we can take more people in there. And then people will say like, I just don't know. And I'm like going, listen, it's kind of that thing of going, because somebody went first, because somebody donated money, because somebody was a candy striper, because somebody was a doctor, somebody was a nurse. Like now there's this, like the birthing center out there is super nice. And it's like, if not all of these people come before you, you don't get this nice little birthing room. And it's like, but people are so scared that if we add more people that they're not going to be able to take advantage of, the resources. When I'm going, no, actually it's the opposite, is that the more resources that we have, the bigger that we have, the more that we can actually help you and them.
Yeah. So it really is just thinking, which is countercultural right now, probably always has been. It requires that you think outside of yourself, your own needs, and think, what could we do that would be a blessing to someone else? And what I said on Sunday is that we today here at New Life, and honestly, it's probably, if we could count accurately, I bet you there are close to 3,000 people that would consider New Life their
church home.
Meaning if they died, they'd want their funeral here, or if they're sick, they're going to call, like, they're not here every week, but this is what they would call their church. It's probably 2,500 to 3,000 people that call this home, right? So So is that enough? Is that so do we just stop, or do we say, no, of those 3,000 people, how do we invest in them to make sure that it continues to grow, continues to impact our community? God has done a great thing here. Like, it is amazing. So you go back to those 3,000 people, and you go back 30 years, there were 30 people
Right.
who made huge sacrifices to get a church started. And that church, it's probably more than that, 40 years ago, and struggling and trying to, and they had a vision, they had something they wanted, and it just took a long time to get going. And now here we are enjoying the shade
Right.
of that tree that was planted by Harvey Miller and some of the early church founders of New Life way back in the day before it was ever called New Life. But they laid the foundation, and they're dead, they're gone, they're in heaven. They never got to worship in this building, but they planted the seed in us and trusted the next generation to take the church and to build it. And
Paul
here we
plants
are.
the seed, Apollos waters
Yeah.
it.
So here we are.
And
So
to just kind of wrap up as we're going, what are some of the seeds that you see us planting right now that we're hoping for that shade in 10 to 50 years? What do you think that we're doing intentionally right now?
yeah, so some of the things that we're doing intentionally is for the kingdom is we try to be a support and encouragement and not a financial investment, but a resource to other local churches, like just to make sure that they're encouraged, and we pray for them. So that's one thing that we're doing to make sure the kingdom is successful, to make sure the church is successful and has longevity. Is, again, we are spending financial resources in our early childhood, our children, our youth, our young adults. So we intentionally budget money to invest in them, to train them and equip them. We're looking at ways to, again, expand. So we're starting to explore possibilities for new ministry, either campuses, locations for a church plant or a third service. And so what we're doing now isn't just we're comfortable, let's coast. It's the vision and the intentionality of saying we have to plow the ground, we have to prepare the soil,
Right.
we have to go out and make sure we have good seed, and then find the land that we're going to till and plow and fertilize so we can plant the seed when that time comes. And right now, that's where we're at. We're trying to find the land, and then we'll start plowing the land. Not when I say land, I'm not meaning physically.
Not physical land.
Yeah, we're not physically
It's a
going to.
metaphor, people.
Yes. So we're not purchasing land, but it's opportunities, so we can plow that opportunity, get it ready, fertilize it, and then when we plant that seed, that it'll be planted in good soil.
Well, one of the things I appreciate about you that, like working with you over the last 10 years or so, is whenever we have that conversation, it's really based on that. It's based on what can we do for the community and what's the most effective, not what's the easiest for us.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that. And like, I think that it's an exciting time to be here, but I also see the seeds that we're planting, and I know this is part of your passion for the community, is I see us planting seeds in our own church, and yet, seeds planted in the kingdom, and I see us planting seeds in the community of, backing people when they're, out in the community doing ministry. We have people that come to our church that have other ministries, like a Living the Dream, and we're like, how can we help you? How can we facilitate that? And even, I know they are their own entity, but New Life Christian Academy, like being able to partner with them while we were building the building to say, hey, we want to change Gardner in a way that it's like, yeah, there's a Christian school for kids to grow up in, that those are going to create missionaries here in our community, that we've partnered with, so many people that are like, hey, can we use your building, the fire department, like those kind of things, and sowing those seeds into the community, reaping those relationships, and seeing that actually change Gardner. And
Yeah, when you mentioned New Life Christian Academy and though that is not specifically part of New Life Community Church. That is a separate entity that had it's their own not-for-profit organization. Yet at the same time, New Life, wanting to make a difference in our community, made I don't know that we ever separated out. I don't know how you would do that, but we probably, I think it'd be safe to say that $3 to $5 million of our building budget went specifically with the school in mind.
Yeah, keep it up to code. You know,
Yeah,
like what
so
space
making
that they're
sure
using.
that, because there was a time when we said, let's not build the gym. Well, if we don't build the gym, we probably can't have the school here.
Right.
Well, let's just build the building, but not put all the classrooms. Well, then the school, like a lot of our decisions was based on the school and the financial investment into the school, because we believe that the school then will impact the community. And so it was a huge financial investment. And so the question, and I know we have to wrap it up, so we'll maybe stop with this. When do we stop? Like, when do you stop? Like, why do we need a third service? Why do we need a campus? Why do we need a church plant? Like, can't we just enjoy what we have and say, this is enough? And we can't, because there are still sick people. There are still dying people. There are still people that are drowning in the sea of sin. And I, for one, as the lead pastor, cannot sit back and say, well, I know they're drowning.
Somebody else will
Yeah,
get it.
so what? Nothing we can do. It's like, no, I see them, and so we have to do something to rescue them. There are sick people coming into the hospital. We can't just send them away and say, good luck. Like, no, we will do whatever it takes. And so as long as there are people who don't know Jesus that are in our community, we still have work to do.
Yeah.
And if that means we have to be uncomfortable and build or change, then that's what we have to do. So one day when we stand before Christ, he's not going to say, why just stop? Why did you quit? With all those people out there that were counting, and you had opportunity and you said, nah, we're done. I don't want to stand in front of him and hear that.
Yeah, that's good. And like I said, I want to encourage people that are listening to get involved. And, you know, like I said, through volunteering, through giving, you know, doing those things, because like you mentioned, there are pastors that, you know, their dream was that New Life would be 100, 200, and here we are. And it's like, I'm sure that we're sitting here going, oh, you know, like if I just do my part, who knows what can happen. And it's going to be incredible to see.
Yep.
So we hope that you guys get involved. You can check out more opportunities about that, like on our website. You can call the office, come see us at HQ on Sunday morning. There's always stuff to do. There's always a way that you can make a difference in the lives of somebody else and pass on a legacy. We will see you here next week on the 167. See you next time. If you enjoyed this episode of the 167, make sure you like, subscribe, follow, get notified, leave a 5-star rating and a positive review. Tell all your friends to listen as well. Make sure you go over to newlifegardner.com and check out all that we have to offer as a church, and check out our messages online as well. Thanks for listening.